When people come to us at Equip, one of the most common questions we get is, should they be doing family therapy or should they be signing their child up for individual therapy? And Maris, I'm really excited to talk to you today about when to do what and how to decide what to start with. And if you could maybe take us back to when you first started treatment, and I don't know, did you have an opinion on family versus individual?
I had an opinion at the time. I think it's different than how I look at it now. When I was diagnosed, my parents really knew nothing about eating disorders. And so they took me to a therapist. And even that was new for my family. And she's wonderful. She's a great therapist. And she also said to my parents, she also needs more support than this. She's not going to independently start feeding herself in the way that she needs to recover, which was beyond lucky that we heard that fairly early on. And so I actually ended up being hospitalized, which I think helped burst the urgency my parents felt. So when we came home from that and they learned a little bit about family-based treatment, they were able to take full control of the feeding and making sure that I was getting all the nourishment I needed. And from there, I was able to pick back up on therapy once I made some progress with weight restoration. And looking back on the way I interacted with therapy before and after that, it's like night and day. At first, I was just sitting on the couch, kind of staring at the therapist and hoping it would be over. And later, it was still hard at first, but I was able to interact more and access more of the hard work that we were doing. So it all had a time and place, and I'm really happy with where we ended up now. But in the beginning, I wanted my parents to have nothing to do with any of it, but they were really integral in that process.
So many things that you said really track with my experience as a provider and also the research that I've done. So the first is that you started with individual treatment. 65% of parents want to start with individual treatment. 100% of teenagers want to start with individual treatment. And what we see is the same thing, that getting over an eating disorder is so hard that you have to have your family involved. We've also kind of seen that sometimes the lights aren't on yet, so it's hard to do any work in individual treatment until you start the renourishment process. I want to end by sharing some research that we did on having families involved in treatment. So of the 40 teens that we asked, of course, all of them said, no, I don't want my parents involved. But when their treatment was done and we asked them, unanimously they said, I'm so glad my family was involved. I would have never gotten better if my parents weren't involved. And I wish my parents would have gotten involved sooner. Something that all of the teens also shared was that they were closer to their parents than they ever had been before. They were afraid that doing family treatment would tear their family apart, and instead they found that it brought their family back together. Have a good week.